Lesson 4.7 on flowchart proofs. Now, we have avoided for the longest time until now what a proof is. Now that it's arrived, let's go over it in fine detail. A proof is a sequence of statements that begins with a given set of premises or a given set of facts and leads to a valid conclusion using deductive reasoning. For example, in the previous chapter, we did something that actually resembled proofs. It was very heavy in deductive reasoning. And it started like this. You were given a question. Given triangle ABC and triangle EDC, is angle D congruent to angle B? Now, we went through a step-by-step process where step number 1 involved making a congruency statement involving the two triangles, and the reasoning behind the congruency statement, in this case the SAS congruency conjecture, where we then followed by listing the congruent parts, the two congruent segments, and then the pair of congruent angles. But since the congruent angles were not given, we had to specify the additional information, in this case that the angles were congruent because they're vertical angles. After we validated the triangle congruency statement, we then proceeded with a corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent statement. In this case, we proved what was being asked for us to prove. We have now proven with deductive reasoning that angle D is congruent to angle B. While that was a valid proof, that was more a proof of my own development, just to help bridge the gap between all the facts that we studied in previous lessons and now today's lesson involving what are called flowchart proofs. Now let's start again with the exact same question. Given triangle ABC and triangle EDC, is angle D congruent to angle B? Except now let's take the facts that we found in that bridge exercise in the previous slide in the previous lesson and now turn it into an actual flowchart. So again, we start the flowchart with the three facts. The three facts are that segment CD is congruent to segment CB, that was a given fact, and segment CE is congruent to segment CA, that was also a given fact. Then in addition, our third congruent part were those vertical angles, angle DCE congruent to angle BCA. Except that wasn't a given fact, so we have to add additional clarification for our reasoning below that box, in this case specifying that vertical angles are congruent. In the flowchart proof, every statement, every fact or conclusion is given in a box. Those boxes are numbered, statements are made inside the box, and then the reasoning is given below the box. And then if any fact is used as reasoning for another fact, we use arrows to indicate the flow of the argument. In this case, these three facts together are used to prove that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle ECD. Actually, that should be triangle EDC. Well, anyways, these two triangles are congruent based on the side-angle-side congruency conjecture. And from that congruency statement, we can therefore conclude that angle D is congruent to angle B because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, or CPCTC for short. Now, every statement here is the exact same statement that has been given on the previous slide, except we now organize it in a way that helps direct the flow of the argument or flow of the proof, hence a flowchart proof. Thus concludes today's lesson.